to work in Woolworths.
When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut.
When I get married, I'd like to have 2 children.
My heart's desire is to see my daddy.
I don't want to answer that.
This is no ordinary outing at the zoo. It's a very special occasion. We've brought these children together for the very first time. They're like any other children, except that they come from startlingly different backgrounds. We brought these children together because we wanted a glimpse of England in the year 2000. The shop steward and the executive of the year 2000 are now 7 years old.
In 1964, World in Action made 7 Up. We have been back to film these children every 7 years. They are now 42.
Is it important to fly? Yes.
Tony was brought up in the East End of London.
I want to be a jockey when I grow up. Yeah, I want to be a jockey when I grow up.
At 14, he was already an apprentice at Tommy Gosling's racing stable in Epsom. At 15, he left school.
This is a photo finish when I rode at Newbury. I'm the one with the white cap. I was beating a length and half a third and I had a photo finish. So I took it out of the box and kept it as a souvenir.
Tony, an 8.
By 28, he'd given up on horse racing.
My greatest fulfilment in life when I rode at Kempton, in the same race as Lester Piggott. I was a naive, wet behind the ears apprentice. All my years, from 7, all my ambition is fulfilled in one moment. And I eventually finished last, tailed off obviously, but it didn't make any difference to me. Just to be part of it, be with the man himself.
What will you do if you don't make it as a jockey?
I don't know. If I knew I couldn't be one, I'd get out of the game. Wouldn't bother.
And what do you think you would do then?
Learn on taxes.
At 21, he was on the knowledge. And by 28, he owned his own cab.
We're on the way to Langhams, you know. All I can hear is Alf go on it, you know. It's the Labour government and you're lot up here. And...
Have you got a girlfriend?
Nope.
Would you like to have a girlfriend?
Nope.
You understand 4 Fs? Find them, feed them, and forget them. But with the other F, I'll let you use your own discrimination. I mean, this one, I tried to do the 3 Fs, but I couldn't forget her.
I went to a discotheque. He was in the pub earlier on, and that afterwards we went to a discotheque and Tony was down there. And from there, that was it. Couldn't get rid of him.
We have our ups and downs, no more than anyone else.
I think you've got to work at a marriage. I think all marriages go through stages. You can't stand each other. You go through, you know, I think, oh, God, I hate him. I wish he'd get out. I do.
We've been to the edge of the cliff and looked over a couple of times, and we've always seemed to sort of go back, and we've sort of stayed the course. But I must say, I mean, it's not easy being married. And, you know, anyone, you know, thinks it is. I mean, it's quite difficult.
In 1993, Tony and Debbie left the East End and moved to Woodford in Essex.
Well, with the help of my neighbour, I'm not really a do-it-yourself type of guy. He painted all the back of the house. We were going to put a conservatory here. But if you look along here, we put a patio in and the pond for the fish.
Well, when we bought it, it was very old. This was 2 rooms, and we've knocked it completely out. Refitted a kitchen, put all new windows in, new flooring, literally everything, really.
Well, the fence, we had a bit of luck there, because the next door neighbour here, they paid for it and they done all this end. So I done, it came in my favour having a small bit done. So it was a blessing there. But the only thing I ever done was I planted them 3 trees. And They seem to have grown in the last 3 or 4 years.
It has cost us a lot of money to do it, yeah. A lot of money. Now we're skint.
Well, I think we overspent about, a colossal amount. Thousands. My overheads to keep everything going here is, at this present time, astronomical.
Are you going to get out of this financial hole?
Yes, without question, because that is just, it is a millstone around my neck at this time, but it's nothing what 2 years won't achieve through hard work and determination.
To help out, Debbie works the day shift in the cab while Tony does the night shift.
Yeah, but son, it's hard work out there.
Come on, you're not reaching me yet.
Not getting to
No,
me.
you're not getting to me. All right? Now, be bigger. Dominate me. All right?
Son.
At 28, Tony was taking acting lessons. Now he supplements his income with occasional TV jobs.
Oi! That's all I got on me. Mate, if I had a pound for every time I've heard that, I'd be a rich man. Got a fare, haven't you? Yeah, just a back.
Would everybody please sit round now? Get on with their work. I don't want to see any backs to me. Shouldn't be anybody turning round. Tony, do you hear as well? Get on with your work in front. Tony! Don't turn round again.
There's only one ambition, really. I want a baby son, and if I see my baby son, that is my ambition fulfilled. No one knows that, only you now. This is Hackney Marshes. The games are being played. Mostly these are pub sides, and I've been playing over here for nearly 28, 30 years.
So you're a veteran?
You might call me that, yeah.
Who'd you play with?
My Nicky, and I think it's quite admirable that his dad's in the same side as his son.
Tony and Debbie have 3 children. The eldest, Nicky, works as a French polisher.
I wanted him to go on the knowledge and become a cabbie. I bought him a bike, but I'm quite proud of the way he's turned out. I mean, he's a very respectable kid, very respectful towards people, and most of all, he's done it all on his own terms.
Perry, she is just started secondary school. She's a character, but she's quite academic-minded, and hopefully, you know, she'll stay on.
Come on, let's get hold of him now! You've only got another 60 minutes left. There you go, straight out, do a left at the top.
Jodie don't like school. She's just coming up to now that she'll be leaving school shortly. I do feel that she's wasted a lot of years in her secondary school. I'm not saying it's the school's fault.
Well, come on.
Probably a lot of it's her own fault. But, you know, and we have tried with her and we have tried to push her into it. She's just, I think she's a bit how Tony was. She's just not interested in school, which I feel she'll regret later on.
Lovely, mate. I mean, I try to discipline them in various areas, but at the end of the day, it is quite hard and difficult. I like to stand up and suggest, you know, lead with an iron fist, but I haven't got the art to do it. That's the truth of the matter.
I have to do it. And then if anything goes wrong, it's my fault.
A bird said to me the other day, she said, "Ain't you small?" So I said, "But you're ugly, at least I can grow." And I said, what can they say to that? They can't say nothing, can they?
And why did you fall in love with him?
Don't know.
I don't know how. I don't know how you put up with me for so long.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how I stand him.
I've been in positions, you know, and well, it's hard to say in front of Debbie, but it's true. It's tempting. You take the bait. You know, I go on holiday once a year with the boys, type of thing, to Spain, Magaluf, and we have a golf holiday, all against Debbie's will. But it's true, and I get in situations out there that, you know, life is for living. And I come back, oh, I know what you've been doing out there. You've been meeting all them birds and whatever. And they look at you as if to say, I know, but I don't want to know. That's how it is. I have often not gone through life with one hand tied behind my back. And my character, happy-go-lucky nature, and being in positions that I do, find myself caught in trouble. I'm not proud at all to say this, but situations arise that I have had regretful behaviour various times, but through...
You got caught?
And
that was it?
That's you know, I'm not lying about the fact, you know. I mean, you can always cover it up and suggest other things, but it's, you know, it's true and let it be true.
You caught him?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, you know, it was touch and go whether we carried on from it or not. You know, we sort of went for a very traumatic time.
But then again, I mean, let who's never seen cast a first stone. I mean, it just doesn't happen with a taxi driver living in Essex. It happens with MPs, etc., etc. I mean, you know, I'm not going to hide behind any trees and suggest, you know, I'm as holier than thou, which no doubt I'm not. All I'm suggesting is this is what real life is all about. If I've been caught with my hand in the till, that's fair enough. I'll pay the consequences. And the consequences is ironing out the details and the problem with my wife and my marriage, and hopefully, eventually, get it in the right lane and put it back on the tracks. You know,
Why did you forgive him?
Because at the time, I felt that there was still something in the relationship, you know, and there was 3 children involved here as well, which is not easy when you've got 3 young children. And there was obviously still something between me and Tony, and it's not easy to walk away. I could have walked away. I felt it's silly, but when it happened, I felt very strong. And I could have walked away. It's not been easy to try again, to get over it, the hurt, because I've never done it and I've never been unfaithful. And that's what I found really hurtful. And I feel that I'm a good wife and I didn't deserve it.
all I understand is dogs' prices, girls, knowledge, road, streets, squares, and mum and dad and love. That's all I understand, that's all I want to understand.
Tell me about the family. I mean, are you fairly closely knit?
Well, I love them all. There's not one I don't love more than other than my mum, obviously. But your mum is the root of the sort of tree. You love your mum best.
By the time he was 35, both Tony's parents had died.
I'm at the graveside, I'm talking to her, you know, all things, and I've got all images running through my mind saying, like, Tony, go downstairs, get me 5 weights, you know, 1 and a penny. And I used to go in the shop. She used to throw the cotton in an air curler over the landing, and I used to tie the cigarettes on this bit of cotton, and she used to pull them up. And she'd go, and I see her in the end, thanks, Tone, see you after school. Be good. And that's the way it was. Even now, I'll get emotionally sentimental over my mum and dad. It's just because I felt the weekends they could have had over here in the later part of their life, it would have been nice to know that their last days were me type of thing, but it wasn't to be.
The Prussians. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. They're nuts. Just have to touch them.
I don't want to change, because if I change, it proves the other Tony Walker was all fake. You know, I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses and make myself any more than, you know, what I can capable of doing. But I mean, I can only go so far. I'm only a cabbie. I mean, I'm not exactly a movie star, but I've done as well as I can go. And I think this is about the limitations for me now. So I'm happy with what I've got. If anything else comes along, it's a bonus.
Tommy, do you have any boyfriends, Susie?
Yes.
Tell me about him.
He lives up in Scotland, and I think he's 13. And I'm rather lonely up there because he usually goes to school, but we usually play till about 6:30 when he comes home from school. And then we go in, and then he goes home to do his homework.
Have you got any boyfriends, Susie?
What is your
attitude towards marriage for yourself?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't given it a lot of thought because I'm very, very cynical about it. But then, you know, you get a certain amount of faith restored in it. Well, I mean, I got friends and their parents are happily married, and so it does put faith back into you. But me, myself, I'm very cynical about it.
When I last saw you at 21, you were nervous, you were chain-smoking, you were uptight, and now you seem happy. What's happened to you over these last 7 years?
I suppose Rupert. I'll give you some credit.
Okay. I'm now chain-smoking.
No, I think, you know, you can't just walk through a marriage and think it's, you know, once you get married, it's all going to be roses and everything forever. You know, you have... well, everybody has their rows, but we've never yet had a row that we haven't managed to sort out. It's very hard to actually say what it is that goes on between a couple. It's either there or it's not. And maybe we're very lucky. I mean, after 20 years, we still seem to have it.
When I get married, I'd like to have 2 children.
I'm not very children-minded at the moment. I don't know if I ever will be.
What do you think about them?
Oh, I don't like babies.
What was the biggest shocks to you when you suddenly were confronted with a small baby that you had to be responsible for?
Panic set in, I think, that I wasn't going to be able to cope.
At 28, Susie had 2 sons, Thomas and Oliver.
I mean, I don't think I'll have any more for the reason that I will get pleasure out of these 2, but I can't see me going on and on and on.
By 35, she had a daughter, Laura.
Very little has changed. My life probably is very much the same as it was then. I've had another baby, we've moved house, and that's about all.
Would you like to have a nanny to look after them, or do you want to look after them?
I want a nanny to look after them.
I've chosen to stay home for the last 15 years to bring up my children because I wanted to be the one that did it. Tom is now 16 and he's his own man, really, now. He's suddenly got confidence in himself now, and he, having been quite a shy child, he's now come out of himself and he's his own person. Oliver's very individual. It's a sort of love-hate relationship Oliver and I have. We don't get on all the time, but we still come through most things. But it's been a hard battle for him. He's got learning difficulties and life hasn't dealt too many easy cards for him, and so it's a lot harder for him.
C-O-N-T.
Laura just seems to take life in her stride. I mean, she just takes it. I'll give you an easy one now, always.
A-L.
She's very easygoing and gets on with life.
E-Q-U.
Tom will be away at university or whatever in another couple of years, and they'll all get on and make their own lives. That's all the Latin. The mid-40s is a crossroads for people because their lives do change, and I don't want to just suddenly find, when the children have gone, I've got nothing to my life. I'm not very good at sitting around doing nothing. I have to be doing something. I have to have a goal or something to try and achieve.
The more she went through the stages of bereavement, the bigger the space became. But the actual grief
doesn't go away.
Doesn't actually go away ever, but just...
I got into bereavement counselling about 4 years ago.
Interestingly enough.
It can be very harrowing. It's very difficult, which is why all counsellors need a supervisor, because you come out sometimes from a session mentally and emotionally drained.
Because she was coming more to terms with what happened.
It's an extraordinary experience when you meet someone who is suffering terribly, and over the months you see them move on, you see them get their life back together again.
At 28, Susie's father died.
It is terribly hard, and even now I still can't believe my father's not here. It's still sinking in, I think. My mother had been ill before, But when I started the course, I didn't know quite how ill she was then. And then we found out she had fairly terminal cancer when I was halfway through the course. And I did wonder whether I could carry on, because it was quite difficult going to the course every week and listening to other people, what they'd gone through. But in a strange way, it helped me.
You know as well as I do that if you've got a complicated bereavement...
So I came through the course and my mother died just after that. But I did find it a help doing it, because I just felt I wasn't alone. And I think that's the whole point of bereavement counselling, is that people feel very alone when they've lost someone very close to them. And a lot of people don't have someone to turn to.
Well, I was the only child going through their parents splitting up age 14, or at a very vulnerable age, and it does cut you up, but, you know, you get over it.
I never had a very close relationship with my parents. I didn't really know them very well, but in the last few years of her life, we had become closer, and I think that's what I resent, that I lost her when I did, because I was just beginning to really build a relationship with her.
When he was 35, Rupert made a big career move.
I was a partner in quite a big law firm, and I resigned from that and set up my own company. I tend to specialise in refurbishing old buildings and converting them into offices.
It was a very difficult time when Rupert was deciding to leave. He's got a lot of responsibilities with all of us, and it's not easy just starting off on your own.
Do you ever worry that the roof might fall in and you'll be out of this?
Yes, I mean, it crosses my mind, and this last year it's quite, you know, it's crossed my mind quite hard that we might, you know, we could lose this.
I've never ever wanted to have a business which was dependent on losing your house, but I think ultimately that can always happen.
The gamble paid off, and the company's doing well.
What sort of things do you do?
Ride, swim, play tennis, ping pong. I might play croquet, something like that.
I did have a privileged background, but on the other hand, I was sent away to boarding school very young, which I found very hard to cope with. I mean, I'm sure my parents did it for what they felt was the right reason. I just felt rejected, which is why I never wanted to force that onto my children.
What do you want most out of life?
To be happy and get on with life. I mean, I don't want to just sit back and let it all whiz past. I mean, you don't know how long you've got your life for. I mean, you know, you could be run over by a bus tomorrow, so you've got to make the most of it while you've got it.
If I could have it over, I would change my life from 14 to 21. Those years were not good for me. Like any other child with divorced parents at 14, I felt very lost, bewildered. I would have made more of my education instead of rather throwing it away, because I just thought I knew it all and didn't want to be bothered. But I can't turn the clock back, so I just have to bury that and think, well, OK, it was a time in my life that was unhappy, and move on.
Two of the boys are coming into that period of their lives. Are you watchful of that for them?
I am watchful of that, but I hope they have a more stable home life than I had at that age. And I don't take for granted the home life that Rupert and I have tried to build for them. All I want is to be here long enough, to be fit and healthy long enough to see my children grow up to be independent people. What I really couldn't cope with was if I died before they were grown up. It's the one thing I think every parent dreads, is not living long enough to see their children into adulthood.
Excellent!
What do you think about rich people?
Well, not much.
Tell me about them.
Well, they think they can do everything without you doing it as well.
Simon was brought up in a children's home, the only child of a single parent.
Rich people, they have all different things, have everything they want, whereas poor people, they don't have nothing, and they know they haven't got nothing. and so they know they're missing something.
What are you missing?
Well, I'm missing a bike and a fishing rod. And
20 years ago, when I was born, you know, an illegitimate child, you know, that's something that's only whispered about. People, you know, feel strongly about it in those days, but nowadays it's not a serious matter. The serious point is whether you stay with somebody or you leave them. Since 21, I've got married, had a couple of kids, and well, I don't think there's anybody else I could have ever married except Yvonne. She gives me my life, really, because we're together, we have the children and everything. Look at the parrot.
When you decided to have the 5, did you want to have them close together?
Yeah, because if you separate each kids, you say one is 15 and one is 6, I mean, there's such an age gap that they could never get on. They never grow up together, they won't know each other.
By 35, Simon and Yvonne were divorced. At 42, he had married Vianetta.
We used to go out when we were younger. We met in the laundrette.
Once a week.
Once a week in the laundrette. Then we both sort of drifted apart.
Mm.
And
unfortunately.
And had our own lives, got married. And we met up again 6 years nearly 6 years ago.
She already had a teenage daughter, Miriam. Now Simon and Vianetta have a 4-year-old son, Daniel.
Does he remind you of yourself when you were younger?
Oh no, he's got far more energy than me even.
He's a bit of both of us actually. He's very bright and very quick, very clever.
I like to know how things work, so for that, yes, he is like me.
Why do you call him Daniel?
Oh,
it's a long story.
It's my father's name. Yeah.
And we decided to name him Daniel before he was born. We didn't know it was a boy.
they say, where's your father then? You know, when your mum's out at work, instead of your father. And I just tell them I ain't got one.
What effect has that had on you?
Well, I don't think it's had any effect on me, because what you don't have, you don't miss. And
I mean, it hurts me that he wasn't there, but at the same time, he wasn't there. He wasn't there for me, he wasn't there for my mum, so I never really wanted to see him. That's anger inside me. But personally, I'd like to see him just for curiosity's sake, but the anger that I've had for how many years is... It's been overgrown by boredom now. I just can't be bothered to look for him. They've got everything then. They've even got what I never had. So,
which is what?
A father, isn't it? So, I mean, they've had everything. I've still got 5 children. I mean, they haven't really taken the breakup of my first marriage too well. So I've got still to get to grips with that and get to them and make them understand that Daddy is still Daddy.
Has that been hard?
It has for me, because I've always been the retiring type, that, you know, not really taking anything on, but I don't really want to lose my children, any of them. I still want them to know that I'm there for them. At that time, I thought maybe 2 families could meet and everything would be all right, but we're not talking about a movie, we're talking about life, so things don't always work out that way.
It would be nice if they can just pop over and say hello and come in freely, like as if they're one of the kids, because other kids do, so why shouldn't they?
Well, before I'm old enough to get to job, I just walk around and see what I can find.
Was going to be a film star, but now I'm going to be an electrical engineer, just more to reality, really.
By 21, Simon was working in the freezer room of Wall Sausages in London. How do you see the future as far as work goes?
Well, I know I can't stay at Walls forever. I mean, it's just not me. I couldn't stay there for that long. My mind would go dead. But I think if I really wanted to, I could learn a trade, even now.
I'm quite happy to stay there. It doesn't look like it's going to close down, so, I mean, better the devil you know, innit?
Walls did close down, and Simon had a number of warehouse jobs before he joined Hewson, an air freight company, as a forklift truck driver.
I mean, when I was young, I used to say, oh, I'd never work in an office. All the stuffy people, in a stuffy office, but I've done enough hard work to realise that I've been doing the wrong job for so long now.
And the brother has big eyes.
And he's blue.
Yeah.
The brother is blue.
Not last year before, Simon went to GCSE maths, same time as my daughter, and they're both swatting here. And Simon comes up with good grades, and he passed. But he, you know, it's just giving him a kick up the bum to get something in that field, because he's very good.
I had one dream when all the world was on top of me, and everything was on it, and I just about got out, and everything flew up in the air. It all landed on my head.
So are you still drawing and painting?
I like to, but I never really find time to actually sit down and set something out to do.
It's just that this is so good. She sort of stands back and...
Yeah, exactly. He does help Miriam, though. She's doing arts at A-level, so when she has a bit of difficulty doing something, she says, Simon! So he comes to the rescue at times.
But I get it from my mum. She loved art. Always dragging me around the galleries and whatever.
Was it difficult moving from the home back to live with your mother?
Well, I find it's comfortable. See, I can get on well with my mother sometimes. Well, that's good because a lot of young children can't get on with their parents at all at this time of their life. But I get on pretty well with my mum now.
What sort of life does your mother have?
It always seems hard. I mean, she's always been nervous. She has periods of depression. It's made me very sort of protective towards her. I feel I've got to help her all the time. She died in 1990. She had cancer and she didn't survive all the stuff that was doing to her.
Is that tough?
Yeah, for me, because there were so many things I never actually said to my mum that I would have liked to say to her. You know? Just things that, you know, you think about afterwards. It's too late because they're not there anymore.
What sort of thing?
Well, just I love you every day, you know. I like what you're doing, or I don't like what you're doing, just ordinary silly things, you know.
But he's got to get used to knowing coloured people, and coloured people in turn have got to get used to being with white people. Because if either side doesn't work properly, then no side will work properly.
They're just the same as me, aren't they?
I mean, do you think it's hard being a black man in English society today?
It depends what you want, innit? If you just want to live in the society, no, it's not hard. If you want to fight the society, yes, it would be hard.
To be honest, Michael, I've never actually taken it on. You know, I've had it from both sides, to be honest, to be fair to myself. I've had white people tell you're black this and that. I've had black people tell me you're white this and that. So I stopped thinking about all colour a long time ago.
It's tough out there. You're still fighting and you're still having to push yourself. Because when you've got a job, you've always got to try and work harder. Even at school, you've got to... They seem to stereotype you. Even when we moved in here, we never had no one speak to us. I suppose they expect you to be having loud music and parties and that. But we're not all the same. You know, you've got good and bad in every nation. And, you know, we're just the same as anyone else, as far as I'm concerned.
I just want to be just like anybody else, you know. Nothing too marvellous.
I feel okay just getting on with your life, just sort of keeping up. But I know if I really wanted to, I could get on. It only take a little spark in me to do it.
What's the biggest influence Violetta has on you?
I think really motivation, because before I never really pushed myself. She looks after me. She doesn't just push me, she looks after me, you know. She would never let anything be wrong for me. She always makes sure that if I go down the road, I look all right. If I go anywhere, I look all right, you know, and I do the right thing. And it makes me feel that there's somebody out there that really, really wants me.
I read the Financial Times. I read the Observer and the Times. What do you like about it, John? Well, I usually look at the headlines and then read about them. About it.
What's the point of the programme? It's the point of the programme is to reach a comparison. I don't think it is. Because we're not necessarily typical examples.
And I think that's what people seeing the programme might think.
Yes.
Falsely.
I mean, they tend to typecast us.
So everything we say, they'll think, oh, that's a typical result of the public school system.
Yes. That's one of the troubles with this sort of programme. I don't really think that sort of people like us have, unless we're being seven and being rather funny, have very much to say that's very interesting. Because, I mean, we don't know very much.
Well, we didn't know very much when we were 7, but we were still quite funny.
Yes.
Yes.
In ourselves. I agree with John. All we can do is say what we think, and if that's of interest to people, good luck to them.
I'm going to Charterhouse. And after that, Trinity Hall, Cambridge.
This sort of.
Andrew went to Charterhouse and Cambridge, where he read law.
I'd like to be a solicitor, and also fairly successful.
At 28, Andrew was a solicitor.
What qualities do you think it needs to be successful?
Well, you have to have a legal ability in my business, obviously, and you have to have a sort of bedside manner as far as your clients are concerned. Because there's no good being brilliant if you can't communicate with your clients.
By 35, he had become a partner.
Well, I work in the corporate department of a large firm of solicitors in the city. That is, dealing with things like mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, general corporate advice, putting deals together for clients. I suppose the pace has changed a bit as, you know, with technology, people expect work done much faster than they perhaps did, well, perhaps not so much 7 years ago, but 14 years ago. Our practice has got much more international, with more business travel. We have offices in places like Sao Paulo in Brazil, Moscow, Thailand.
How has that changed your life or your part of the company?
Well, it really means that you're under increasing pressure to produce things quickly.
And how is that for you?
That's fine. You have to meet the pressures. That's what people come and see you for.
What do you think about girlfriends at your age? Tell me what you think about
I've got
girlfriends.
one, but I don't think much of her.
They're no longer just bores who won't play this or something.
They're over half of the community and they're there.
And you can begin to talk to them.
I don't think I financially come from the same background. Andrew didn't go for a haughty deb. He went for a good Yorkshire lass. But, I mean, obviously he knew what he wanted.
By the time he was 28, Andrew had married Jane.
I think I'm probably quite down to earth, and I tend to be less extravagant than maybe some women are. I don't go out and buy lots of expensive dresses. I just go out and buy one or two.
And even better, pay for them. Well, I suppose the most important thing that's happened is that we've had 2 children. One 5 years ago, Alexander, and then a couple of years later, Timothy. When I see the children playing together now, I realise how much fun they have together, and probably what I missed, perhaps, is being an only child.
What's the most difficult thing about keeping the marriage together?
I don't think it is particularly difficult, actually. We seem to manage all right. Would you say?
I think so. We talk, don't we? We have a situation where we retain a babysitter once a week, and we make a point of, if at all possible, that once a week we always go out by ourselves midweek. And I think that's quite important.
Do you worry at all about not having a career and what will happen, as I said, when the children leave home?
Well, I do, but I made that decision now, and I've come to terms with it. You know, if I'd wanted to be a career woman, then probably that's what I'd be, but I didn't want to be a career woman. I wanted to be a mother, and to be a full-time mother.
She gets a very good view of the Statue of Liberty now.
Can you see it?
It's our children's half-term, so we decided to spend a few days in New York.
I'm going to have a look, Tim.
I come here from time to time on my work, but it's usually very rushed. But we thought it'd be rather nice to bring them with us.
Smile! I think it's not a bad idea to pay for schools, because if we didn't, schools would be so nasty and crowded. Yes. So do I think so. Yeah. And the people in the schools wouldn't, and the come rushing in. The man in charge of the school would get very angry because he wouldn't be able to pay all the masters if he didn't get any money. Yes.
And education is very important. And you can never be sure of leaving your children any worldly goods, but at least you can be sure that once you've given them a good education, that's something that no one can take away. It tells you all about it. Well, Alexander is coming up into his teens, and he'll be sitting common entrance to go to his next school later in the year, which will be a boarding school. In fact, he's down to go to the same school as I went to. Timothy is continuing where he is now for a while, and perhaps be going through the same procedure.
Well, I think boarding makes you feel self-sufficient. And also it teaches you to be away from your parents and to live with people for a long time.
It's going to seem very, very strange. But if it's what he wants to do, and if it helps him to get where he wants to go, then I'm prepared to only see him every 3 weeks.
Once I had a talk to Greville. He was in my house. And I asked Sir if he could put him out of my house because he was always getting minuses.
I think it's become much more competitive for children nowadays. I don't really remember much about my early childhood, but I feel that they are under more pressure to perform now. You know, you look back at us at the age of 7 saying, we're going to this school, that university, and so on. But there have been many places where one could have gone wrong. Just because you have the opportunities, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to pull through.
Where might you have gone wrong, do you think?
Well, one could have given up on university. One could have found the pressures of work too much. One could have found the pressures of marriage too much. All sorts of things can go wrong.
And what is it in you think that's pulled you through?
Well, I suppose it's just being persistent. I don't like giving up. And perhaps it's also not being too adventurous, not wanting to do anything else. Once you start, you know, I've been in my job for 20 years. I haven't really wanted to do anything else.
When I leave the school, I'm going to College Court. And then I will be going to Westminster boarding school if I pass the exam. And then we think I'm going to Cambridge and Trinity Hall.
Let's just present yourself. Half 3.
John went to Westminster School. He went on to read law at Christ Church, Oxford.
I do believe parents have a right to educate their children as they think fit. And I think someone who works on the assembly line in some of these car factories, earning a huge wage, could well afford to send their children to private school if they wanted to.
At 21, we asked him what career he would pursue.
Might be at the bar.
Doing what?
Perhaps chancery practice. I now have a career. I'm a barrister. Other than that, life chugs along in varying degrees.
When boys go around with girls, they don't pay attention to what they're doing. Yes, as my grandmother had an accident because a boyfriend was kissing his girlfriend in the street.
John married Claire, the daughter of a former ambassador to Bulgaria. He has a very successful career at the bar and is now a QC. He decided not to take part in this film.
When I leave school, I'm going to the dragon school. I might, and I might go to. After I might go to Charterhouse, Marlborough, and I can't remember all other places, but because Mummy's got so many, but there's some of them.
What about university, Charles?
I might go to Oxford.
Charles went to Marlborough, but he didn't go to Oxford.
In fact,
instead he went to Durham University.
I'd say I'm pleased I didn't, because there's very much sort of certain from Marlborough prep school, Marlborough, Oxbridge conveyor belt. You get shoved out at the end.
And what did Charles want to do?
I'd say probably scribbling away in some basement for some London newspaper or something.
Charles did scribble away for an East London newspaper. He then moved on to the BBC, where he became a producer. He's now editor of science documentaries at Channel 4. He decided not to take part in this documentary.
When I grow up, I'd like to find out all about the moon and all that.
Nick, a farmer's son, grew up in the Yorkshire Dales.
And I said I was interested in physics and chemistry. Well, I'm not going to do that here.
At 14, he was away at boarding school, and at 21, reading physics at Oxford.
So what career are you going to pursue?
It depends whether I'll be good enough to do what I want to really do. I would like, if I can, to do research.
The gas in these experiments is at a temperature comparable with that of the sun, whereas in a power reactor it would be maybe 10 times the temperature of the sun. And we're trying to induce that gas to fuse.
By 28, he had moved to America and was doing research into nuclear fusion at the University of Wisconsin. By 35, he was an associate professor there.
The first one is basically saying that the rate of change of crystal momentum, it's ddt of this quantity h bar k, that is equal to the Lorentz force. You know, so if you work out the density in any cell.
In addition to now being a full professor, I've been doing some administrative jobs. I've been associate chair of my department, which means I've run the graduate program in my department, which is the electrical engineering department. I've been running admissions and, sort of dealing with student problems and so on for the graduate program. And I've spent the last year and a half writing a couple of books, one about this business of using plasmas to process semiconductors, and there was another one that was about semiconductors. It's called Semiconductor Devices, and it's got a subtitle, A Simulation Approach.
Do you have a girlfriend?
I don't want to answer that. I don't answer those kind of questions.
I thought that one would come up because when I was doing the other one, somebody said, "What do you think about girls?" And I said, "I don't answer questions like that." Is that the reason you're asking it? Yeah, I thought so.
The best answer would be to say that I don't answer questions like that, but I mean, it was what I said when I was 7, and it's still the most sensible, but I mean, what about them?
Nick was only 17 when I first met him, and I knew he was a nice person. I find him very attractive, and he uses his intelligence in his relationship with me, which is very important.
His English-born wife, Jackie, is a professor of journalism at the university. They have an 8-year-old son. Why only one child?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, one is that these silly jobs we have demand such an amount of time and such a commitment that it's hard to fit in one. Also, he's such a lively person and he demands such a lot of attention that he makes it hard to find time for another. So I think that's the main reason.
So you don't want another one?
Oh, yes. No, I would love to. I would dearly love to have another one, actually. No, that's... don't go away with that impression. No, I absolutely adore children.
If I could change the world, I'd change it into a diamond.
I don't really think that I've done anything you can call a great success. I mean, that it would seem really ridiculous to any of my friends who watch this if I said, Christ, aren't I a great success? Look at me.
When I first met you, I remember I thought this was very idealistic, but it was rather interesting. When I asked you why you're working on fusion, you said you wanted to save the world. I think that's a bit embarrassing now, but I don't think you'd feel the same way about something that you didn't feel mattered.
I always wanted to have an impact, to do something useful that was actually going to benefit people. I had this vision of people in ivory towers being cut off, doing stuff all their lives and having no effect on anybody whatsoever, and that was absolutely not what I wanted to do. And so I chose to go into this fusion business because I thought this would have a huge impact. I'm not expecting to be reported in newspaper headlines anytime soon. That's not the limit of my ambition, but it's just trying to be realistic. I'm just going to have to try and settle for reasonably small victories.
They'd like to come out for a holiday in the country when I'd like to have a holiday in the town.
Do you get lonely here?
You just tend to get stuck into your everyday routine and you don't think about it. But when you call home, then you realize how far away you are. And now it seems acute because both our families are getting older. Even if you think in terms of seeing them once every 2 years,
that's not so many
you're thinking
times,
only about 10 times, and that's awful.
This year, Nick went back to the Dales to see his family.
It's been 5 years since I've been back here. It's changed quite a lot. It's got more touristy and less like a region that's farmed. Every second house seems to be a hotel at the moment.
This is the old dipper.
Well, it's been rotten for my dad because he's been unable to walk a lot of the time. He's had terrible troubles with his legs. And of course, farming's in miserable shape, so he's retiring and the stock have been sold. Yes, I think he's had a very hard life. I mean, he's had to work enormous hours every day of his life, doing something that ultimately isn't going to work.
Do you want to take up farming?
No. I'm not interested in it. My youngest brother, the deaf one, if he can't do anything else, he can probably run a farm. If he can't, it's it. But as a last resort...
So your brothers won't take over on the farm?
Absolutely not, no. Neither of them really wanted to, I don't think. Andrew's a newspaper reporter. He's, I think, about to take a job near York. He's going to need a base over there. He can't commute from here. Well, Christopher's married, which is great. He's a very nice wife who is getting better and better at communicating with the deaf. And he worked in Skipton. He's taking some courses in computers. I'm not actually sure what, but he always says to me that I do computers, and I think it's a good idea that he does computers, and I do, so I try to encourage him.
So you're all away, so the Hitchens are finished here?
Yes, the Hitchens are certainly largely uprooted from here, aren't they?
That I'm the only child in the village except for my baby brother.
Well, this is Arncliffe School, which is where my brother and I went to school from age 5 to 10. And there's the church where we were all christened and everything, and used to go to harvest festivals and things there.
What did you learn here, do you think, that you've carried with you?
well, you just look at this place and it's utterly beautiful, but not beautiful in a sort of pretty, cutesy way. I think of it as being magnificent, but rather grim, really. I sort of feel as if you could look deep somewhere inside me. I feel like there's some of this in there somewhere, and it's rather dour, but just a wonderful. It's very uncompromising, and sometimes it's rather tragic, but you know, it's makes other places you go seem rather trivial as well. I'm just enormously proud of having come from here, and the people around, you know, the idea of being a Dales person is really terribly important to me. What you see that's so magnificent are the clouds sweeping by all the time, air and cloud and water continually sweeping over you. I mean, there's a poetic side to that. You know, I would be looking at these and thinking now, how does a cloud work? And when you come down to it, what I do when I'm trying to solve equations, it's the same equations that describe clouds and water and air flowing around. So from a scientific point of view, I relate back to this sort of thing.
There's SSIs, there's ESAs, there's LFAs.
It's hard being away from your roots, isn't it?
Terribly hard. I mean, it's hard in lots and lots of ways. I mean, if you go to an alien culture, you don't know what's going on around you half the time. It's really strange to go to a different country. People don't send out the same signals.
Look, I could try and... It's frightening. It's frightening.
It's very hard to imagine being able to come back here, and I think about it a lot, but I haven't seen the way to do it yet.
In some sense, it never really belonged to me. I mean, part of me would love to own a stake in it, but I really don't own any of it. But the other thing is that I've had to move out of here, and I think that the way the world is, it's very hard to stay in one place. People are forced to move constantly. The history of this century has a lot of examples where people moved or should have moved, and professionally and in lots of other ways, it's really important that people are always thinking about what's happening around them and how they have to react to it. Beauty's transient, so maybe we can come by here and visit it. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be permitted to be here very much.
And what about all the other children? What's happened to them?
Well, I'll go into Africa and try and teach people who are not civilized to be more or less good. I'm going to work in Woolworths. What would you do if you had lots of money? About me, £2. I will buy myself a new nice house, you know. What does university mean? When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. But if I can't be an astronaut, I think I'll be a coach driver. Well, I'm going to take people to the country and sometimes take them to the seaside. And
Is Neil still homeless? We'll find out tomorrow.